Hi, this is Rob Packard from Medical Device Academy. I'm giving you a brief video about one of the topics that we're going to be covering at our next workshop in Amsterdam on 510K submissions. The workshop is going to be on October 10th and 11th. We start the workshop at 9 a.m. This particular topic will be covered on the second day. We're covering labeling and UDI requirements. So I thought I'd take a couple of frequently asked questions and answer those as an introduction to this topic and to the 510K workshop in Amsterdam. The first question was, what labeling does the FDA require for a 510K submission? The labeling that they're looking for is draft labeling. So it doesn't have to be print quality. It doesn't need to be ready to go off to the printer. It doesn't have to have a background and coloring. It's not like the drug side of the FDA where you can't change the labeling at any point without going back for approval. The FDA device side, they expect you to update your labeling whenever you identify any problems or identify problems with the instructions that need to be clarified so people don't make mistakes. The one thing that you can't do is remove contraindications from your labeling without going back for another submission. So that's the only thing you can't change in your labeling before you, without doing another submission. But the FDA is looking for draft labeling. So could you submit exactly what you submitted for your European CE marking for a 510K submission? Yes, in theory you could. There are a couple of challenges. Number one, you have to have an English translation. You can include the other translations with it, but the FDA only accepts English. So as long as the English is with all the other languages, that's okay. And number two, you have to have the statement in there for a prescription device that this is prescription only and can, according to U.S. law, can only be honored by the order of a physician. So those are two of the unique things that are required by the FDA. But otherwise, a lot of companies can do that. But I often find a few problems in the labeling, so it's worth reviewing with a checklist before you actually begin plan on submitting it to the FDA. Another question I get is, do we have to submit our website content? Well, if you're a European company and you're CE marking your product and you're planning on submitting something to the FDA, there might be European-only content on your website. So one of the things you're going to have to do at some point is differentiate between this is for the US and this is for Europe if there are differences. Sometimes there aren't, but often there are. And you want to make it very clear that you're not currently marketing the product to the US if your website's in English and the product's currently available in Europe. Sometimes it's helpful to include website content, a screen capture or something in your submission, but it's not always required. But one thing you should be aware of is the FDA will look at your website. So even if you don't submit the website content, and even if it's European only, the FDA is still going to look at that, and they're going to look for things that you can't have, and they're going to ask you to address those, remove things that are unacceptable, or clearly differentiate this is for Europe only, and here's the website we created for US only. So you might want to address that question up front to make sure your submission review goes smoothly. One of the other questions I get is, do you need a UDI barcode before you before you submit your 510K? And the answer is no. In fact, you don't even need it until you actually are putting the product on the market. So you could get your 510K submission in now, get your 510K 90 days from now, or maybe longer, depending on how long the review process takes, and then register the product a year after that. And it's only when you actually put the product in the market and start distributing it, you need the UDI codes. You can also do it before you do all that because the FDA doesn't approve you getting a UDI barcode. You work through a separate third-party agency, such as GS1, to get your barcodes. Next question, do you need a UDI barcode to register your device? This is currently a no, but it could become a yes in the future. Right now, the FDA has a pilot going on, and if you go to register a product, when you go to register, they give you the option voluntarily of uploading a label with your UDI sample. Right now, it's optional, but in the future, I suspect that it won't be optional, and the FDA is testing this feature to make sure that they're capable of uploading these and maybe even doing some analysis of those labels. see if they can automatically detect whether the barcode's acceptable or not. So that's something you should keep in mind. Right now, it's not required, but in the future, in order to register and list your product, you will probably need that. Another question I get asked is, are symbols allowed instead of English text? Yes, they are. This is actually a change in the FDA's position. I believe it was in 2017, maybe in September, that they changed this requirement. Now they recognize ISO 15223-1 as a recognized standard by the FDA, and they allow you to use symbols instead of words. And they even have added in their own regulations saying that you can use the RX only symbol for prescription only requirements. You can have an English text only, but you can also have symbols instead to save you some room on the labels. But if you do provide symbols, you have to also provide a legend explaining each of those symbols in your instructions for use. So what are some of the most common mistakes that I see when I see companies submit labeling? Often it's the prescription use only, that legend that I see missing. A lot of times they have forgotten and left things in other languages and haven't made it clear. Sometimes I see some other mistakes, things that aren't allowed in the US market. They make claims that they're making in Europe, but they're not allowed to make in the US. So those are some of the most common mistakes. But in general, a lot of companies are able to use their labeling that they use in Europe for their submission. So that really saves you quite a bit of time. It's usually one of the first things I ask for. So if you're interested in registering for the workshop, as I said, it's going to be October 10th is the first day of the workshop. It's October 10th and 11th. It's 2 days. You can register for the workshop by clicking on the link at the bottom of the screen. It's our Medical Device Academy website, and you click on the page specific to it is Amsterdam 510K Workshop. And you can pay online by credit card, and it's only $600. They also still have room at the hotel, I believe, for you to register for rooms if you need a room. And you can even register at the last minute. We start at 9 a.m. You don't have to pre-register. You can just show up. And if you're going to show up late or leave early, that's okay too. We have a very small group of attendees, and we're going to try to do as much as we can to answer each person's individual questions so people can get their own, go to their own conference calls or answer emails or phone calls or leave early if they need to. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you at the Amsterdam workshop, and have a nice day.